If you'd open your Bibles to Romans chapter 12 and verse 1, we'll note that the Apostle Paul, as has been commented on, talks about reasoning on matters. That's Romans 12 and verse 1. He says, "Therefore I appeal to you by the compassions of God, brothers, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, a sacred service with your power of reason."
As an example, think about the apostate-driven lies and dishonesties that Jehovah's organization is permissive toward pedophiles. I mean, that is ridiculous, isn't it? If anybody takes action against someone who would threaten our young ones and takes action to protect our young ones, it's Jehovah's organization. We reject outright such lies.
Investigation into child sexual abuse among Jehovah's Witnesses and accusations that religious leaders led a cover-up within some of the group's 14,000 U.S. congregations. Our colleagues from the Center for Investigative Reporting obtained confidential memos shedding new light on the revelations. Special correspondent Trey Bundy has the story from Reveal, a new website, radio show, and podcast run by the center.
At a convention of Jehovah's Witnesses in California, new members are taking the plunge.
At your baptism, you said yes.
They're joining more than 8 million members worldwide. Believers are taught to renounce secular society because it's controlled by Satan, and not to socialize too much with outsiders. But charges of sexual abuse have brought this insular community under greater scrutiny. And now, in this San Francisco courtroom, the first child abuse case against the Jehovah's Witnesses to go to trial is underway.
The next matter on the calendar.
Candace Conti is suing the organization for failing to protect her from a known child abuser when she was 9 years old.
If I were to sum up our goals of this case, it was to attack the policies and procedures that were in place that let a serial molester continue to molest children.
Conti's lawyer says instructions from Jehovah's Witness leaders have enabled child molesters.
The instructions were, you keep these pedophiles secret.
The case hinges on letters from Jehovah's Witness leaders to the heads of local congregations. For almost 20 years, they've ordered them to send reports like this one for every known child abuser, to hide these cases from their congregations, and not to cooperate with law enforcement or the courts unless instructed to. They've refused judges' orders to turn over these abuse reports, so no one knows how many cases like Conti's are out there.
Jehovah's Witnesses abhor child abuse of any form.
The Jehovah's Witnesses insist that they comply with the law, and their lawyers argue that the First Amendment gives them the right to set child abuse policies as they see fit.
Religious beliefs and standards of Jehovah's Witnesses were at play in this case from start to finish.
The religious beliefs come from the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society in Brooklyn, which has often used the First Amendment to defend its policies of separation. In 1943, it even won a Supreme Court case, arguing that school children should not be forced to pledge allegiance to the flag.
May it please the court, James McCabe on behalf of the North Fremont
Watchtower lawyers, who refuse to speak with us, are again claiming a First Amendment defense to keep child abuse in its congregations secret.
And the elders are counseled in that letter to give special heed to the counsel to not reveal the confidential talk of another. Quoting from the Bible book of Proverbs, chapter 25, verse 9.
Candace Conti was part of a Jehovah's Witness congregation in Fremont, California. She was often grouped with adults to go knocking on doors, including this man, Jonathan Kendrick.
He was very dominating, very domineering, he commanded a presence.
She says Kendrick would take advantage of their time door knocking to find ways to be alone with her.
Jonathan Kendrick molested me as a child. I really kind of pushed everything down and tried not to think about it as much as I could.
What no one in Conti's family knew was that Jonathan Kendrick had admitted to molesting another child a year earlier.
Regarding possible sexual abuse.
Michael Clark, an elder in the congregation, was asked about it in this deposition.
Do you recall becoming aware of a report of sexual abuse of a child by Jonathan Kendrick?
Yes.
When did you first become aware of such a report?
He had called us to his home to discuss or to confess to an incident with his stepdaughter.
Clark never called the police. He followed Watchtower protocol. He wrote to New York headquarters asking how to deal with Kendrick's confession. They told him not to investigate the matter further. Instead, they said, provide him with strong scriptural counsel to avoid a repetition of such a serious offense.
We don't make that public to the congregation. That's confidential.
The elders did not warn other members that one of their own was a child abuser.
And that's the policy and the practice of Jehovah's Witnesses that you learned as an elder, correct?
Yes.
Someone who would threaten our young ones and takes action to protect our young ones, it's Jehovah's organization.
Are two witnesses. So we will never change our scriptural position.
The governing body has also asked me to address another topic that I must say hits close to my heart, being a father who raised two boys. The subject is the abuse of children and the damaging effects this can have on such innocent victims.
Thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses were in Reading this weekend for the organization's annual convention. But as WGAL News 8's Becca Hendrickson shows us, the event was met with protest.
The signs are everywhere. It's the last weekend of the Jehovah's Witnesses convention in Reading, attracting people from all over the world.
Have you seen everybody else yet?
No, I haven't met him.
Yeah, feel free to come over. I'll introduce you.
There's one sign in particular Chessa Mannion has an issue with.
Be courageous. Protect your children.
She's protesting the organization she was raised in.
I am a survivor of child sexual abuse within the organization, and I was silenced for over 20 years.
Alongside other survivors, like the Hawks, who say their daughter was sexually abused when she was 4 in the Red Lion Kingdom Hall.
This is a rapid, widespread problem that is finally being brought to light. It's being brought to light in Catholicism, it's being brought to light with Jehovah's Witnesses.
But the Jehovah's Witnesses at the convention wouldn't address the protesters. In fact, they wouldn't even let me inside, despite sending an invitation to this convention last month.
Could you tell us why we're not allowed in anymore? Aren't these supposed to be open to the public?
Because you have revoked your supposed permission to even be here. That's why.
Stop the two-witness rule!
Jehovah's Witnesses blocked every entrance, but from the sidewalk, protesters continued to march. Mannion says she just wants to be heard.
There's more than a level of abandonment. There is outright silencing.
In Reading,
please report abuse to the police.
Becca Hendrickson, WGAL News 8.
Are two witnesses. So we will never change our scriptural position.
Young ones, evidently, apparently, obviously, we are pedophiles, obviously.